Good morning, this is Chris, keeping it real. We had a subscriber from South Carolina comment on my previous video, and even though I included the link to the relevant South Carolina department, I thought I would just go ahead and do a screen grab of it so you could know what you were looking for when you went to the website. And so this is, I'm not sure what the acronym means, Department of Health and, oh, here we go, the Department of Health and Environmental Control. So I do believe that's what Virginia's department that is tracking coronavirus is called as well. So in North Carolina it's Department of Health, North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services, but in North Carolina it is the Department of Health and Environmental Control. So these are the people who are in charge of tracking coronavirus. And so when you go to scdhec.gov, this is what you get. And I don't, well, there's an update. So that would be, I don't know if that's the overall update, or let's see what that does. No, it does not. Because I'm looking for the stats. So let's go back there and put in popular searches. And yes, I believe that is the link that we're looking for. So you scroll down to COVID in North Carolina, and South Carolina, excuse me. And then click on, I believe it's a situational summary, and it gives you an overview of what's going on in the state, and that's not what I was looking for. Let's go back. Testing and projections. I think that's the one that we're looking for. Let's see. Yes, this is it. So this is the page you want to get to. So testing, so let's go back. So when you see the, coronavirus disease 2019, and so go to home. So let me see, let's go back to home. And let's see if there's a link for infectious diseases. No, I don't. So this is the problem with a lot of websites. They really aren't straightforward in the way they present their information. Fortunately, they do have that search term there that does take you to exactly the right page, even though there's not an actual link. So maybe there is, maybe there's not. I don't know. But anyway, go down to COVID-19 in South Carolina and go to testing and projections. And then you get all these rather detailed pieces of information. You can look at the rate per 100,000 100K population by county. Overall, South Carolina has 707 confirmed deaths, 31,850 confirmed cases, which, you know, if we apply the times 10 rule, you actually have 310,000, or almost 320,000 cases. So you have 707 divided by 300,000, which is very similar to what North Carolina is, hovering around 0.25% death rate in South Carolina. So North Carolina and South Carolina, their per capita death rate is almost exactly the same. So you have new cases here in this little graph, cumulative cases. So the cumulative cases, of course, continue to rise, but that doesn't take into account the people who have gotten over it. Anybody who's had it for 30 days has either died or they are better and they are immune and cannot spread the disease anymore. This is good. I like this. This is something that's not reported in North Carolina. A PCR test is an antigen test, and it simply shows whether or not you have it. An antibody test is so much more valuable because it shows at some point, even if you still have it, it shows that you have it. But after you've recovered from it, it shows you that you have had it. And so that is a much more valuable test when you're talking about people being able to go back to work and not being a threat to others. I mean, if I was to get a test, I would absolutely get an antibody test. And if I knew that I'd already had it, then I would not have to worry about putting anyone else at risk, and I wouldn't have to worry about where I went or what I did. So if you're going to get a test, please do get an antibody test. And then here we have the daily cases reported. As you can see, the graph is not exactly like North Carolina's. North Carolina's was much more gradual. Looks like South Carolina had an immediate, I hate to use the word spike because I don't believe that, hold on, let me make this bigger. Oops, that would be the other way. 180 cases a day is a spike. And then if you really look at, unfortunately this graph is deficient because it does not include a 7-day rolling average. And so unlike the North Carolina graphs, you know, when you look at the North Carolina graphs, you have this similar kind of, oh, here's a bunch one day, here a couple days later there's hardly any. And unfortunately TV stations tend to look at these high bars and say, oh my gosh, it's a new record. But they fail to look at the previous day when it was, you know, way down from 5 days before. So you can make a spreadsheet, or you can simply say, if I want to know what my 7-day rolling average is on 6/11, I can simply say, okay, 6/11 and the 6 previous days, add all those numbers together and divide by 7, and you can get a 7-day rolling average. And if you are really ambitious, you can make a spreadsheet and generate your own bar graph that shows a 7-day average. That is way beyond the scope of this video. Sorry. Then you can view the full size, which is a PNG file, like kind of like a JPG file. Oh yeah, except it takes up a whole lot less space. Let me get this a little smaller so we can see there we go. So as you can see, you had kind of a, you know, a high, not a really high number, 185, you know, yeah, you're looking at 150, 200. If the rolling average was in there, you know, you'd be looking at, you know, around 175 through most of this period. And now it has gone up in the last couple of weeks. Probably, well, let me see, this was 6/1. That was about a week after Memorial Day. And some things began to be eased. And, you know, some of it is restrictions are eased, and some of it is people just, you know, can't sit in their house for 4 months and do nothing. And that's one of the things that I think is wrong about our evaluation of what's really going on the ground. But still, this data is valuable. Now, you notice that they do have the green box there, which means they are, and I don't think this is something North Carolina does, they are going to wait, looks like, another few days, and they are going to assign illness onset. They're going to backdate it to when they actually get the results of the test. So that's a good idea, I think. So when somebody, and that's really what the gray bars are for. I'm not sure if that, like these numbers, are a cumulative total of the blue and the gray bars or not. It doesn't, the graph doesn't make it clear. But anyway, this is the information you can look at if you're in South Carolina. Not a bad site, not quite as instantly informative. You have hot spots. You know, when you look at these numbers, And then you look at this, you think, oh my goodness, it's Armageddon. But then you realize, well, we're still only talking about maybe 400 cases rolling average, which is about a third of what North Carolina's is. So actually, South Carolina is doing better more recently than North Carolina is. And of course, you can look at other things like you can do it by county and zip code, which is good because then you can look in your zip code and see what's going on. You can look at demographic data. You can look at hospital bed occupancy. Let's look at that for a second. And they do a percentage, which is great. So you see inpatient beds with twice the population. So, well, I don't know what South Carolina's population is. I guess I need to look that up. Anyway, North Carolina has a larger number of beds and they're much less utilized than it appears to be in a lot of South Carolina. So anyway, there you go. Like I said, don't pay attention to the news. Come and look at the data for yourself. I know you kind of have to assume it's accurate, but it's got to be somewhere in the ballpark anyway. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the section below. Like and subscribe. We appreciate when you do. Let me get back to that graph. Put a link below. We'll see you on the next video.